The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
I would argue it does not represent a maintenance of services in our court systems or in the other budgets that are included within this budget. Which leads to my second point. This path of collapsing multiple budgets into single budget bills is reflective of what the federal government does with its budgeting process. We decry frequently how budgeting happens in Washington, D.C., that it is not transparent, that it allows things to be slipped in under the cover of, well, everything's in the bill and it's all got to go. That is not a process I want to see adopted in the state of Idaho. For decades, we have had a one agency, one budget approach. And what that has meant is that when this body has considered budget bills historically, you were presented with the opportunity to review, often by down to the division level, within an agency, the decisions that were made by our appropriations committee. You had the opportunity to stand up and ask about individual items that appeared in those budgets, and to question and to challenge. And in the event that your questions weren't answered, you were in a position where you could stand up and you could say, I don't feel great about this because you haven't been able to answer my question about why this is appearing in the budget. This omnibus approach removes that transparency and that clarity about what's going on.
Okay, we are live on the House floor here down in Boise. It is February 7, 2024. Representative Britt Raybould, who voted for this particular bill in committee, is now standing up in opposition of it. Folks, the day has arrived. The budget bills that we've been calling for to get an up or down vote and to be debated on the House floor, that day has arrived in the House. The first bill here is a budget for the judiciary department, the branch of the judiciary. That's the court system in Idaho, if I can say that word correctly. Earlier, just before we went live, Representative Horman stood up to present this bill. And while Britt Raybould here continues to rail against the thing that she already voted for, which with arguments that'll be refuted when we carry this live. I want to bring everybody up to speed. So let's take a listen to what Representative Horman said just moments ago.
First of 10 maintenance bills that have been approved in JFAC. We've organized them by functional area in the legislative budget book. So K-12 education, higher education through the state board, health and human services, public safety, courts, which is this one. We wanted the three branches of government to be considered separately. So courts and the legislature will have their own maintenance budgets. And then, where did I leave off? Economic development, general government, and constitutional officers. So those are the 10 bills that have come from the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee to the floors. A reminder that the purpose of doing the budgets this way, which is new this year, I understand we've had a lot of questions and have been happy to answer those, is to increase transparency and accountability for growth in spending and growth in government. Turning to the statement of purpose, you will see it starts at the top with the FY24 original appropriation.
Okay, so there is Representative Horman presenting this bill. She then gets into the details of this particular bill here. But she did acknowledge that this is a new process, and this is what everybody has been talking about behind the scenes, except here, of course. We've been blasting away at this. What we would like to do is go back to the floor for a little bit, listen to some of the debate. This is Representative Josh Tanner, who was on the program last week defending this process. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Options. Talk about replacement items. With some of the agencies, they might demand that some of these replacement items are 100% necessary. Some of them may not. It is not up to them to make that decision. It is up to JFAC and this body to make that decision as what we deem necessary. And that process is not necessarily changing. It just is giving a lot more clarity to that process. And for that, I request, or I ask that you vote for this budget with a green light. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 35.
Would the good lady from 32 yield to a question?
Lady 32 yield for question. Lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good lady, I'm curious, help me to understand as we're approaching this budgeting from a slightly different angle this session. If we were to pass this budget that is before us now, would the court's budget then be considered to have been fully funded as far as state law and our constitutional duties require of us?
Good lady from 32.
Mr. Speaker, gentleman from 35, absolutely not. That's why we're doing another bill with their other requests, including replacement items.
Gentleman 35.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I'll be brief. We have honestly been talking about this updated methodology for some months. I have felt like in my role as a legislator that Idaho's methodology for budgeting is truly the envy of the nation. And a lot of that stems from the fact that we have approached it by having so many individual budgets for the individual agencies so that we have the capacity to dig into line by line their requests, their needs, the statutory requirements. And in all the conversation, that was my great expectation, is that we would continue to see individual agencies and see a true maintenance budget. So I have some concerns that we've gone more to an omnibus approach. And so for that reason, I'm going to be a red line on this budget.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Hearing none, with the good lady. Oops, here we go. Gentleman 26.
Sorry to leave you out there, Speaker. To debate, please.
You're just lucky my right eye works better than my left eye. Go ahead.
I could yell. First, I agree with what's been said. When you start talking omnibus budgets, shoveling $1 billion out in one resolution, it smacks too much of what goes on in Washington, D.C. The second is, even in the title of the bill, maintenance. My concern, I'm a first-term legislator, but one of the issues that's been talked about by our good speaker a lot of times is in your debate, you don't reference another bill for clearly, to me, a really good reason. The next bill may or may not happen. My issue is passing something that's I don't consider maintenance. There's too much stuff left out. And if the second bill doesn't happen for whatever parliamentary reason that could be out there, we've got an agency that can't fulfill legislative intent because we didn't provide them the tools to do that. So in light of, one bill should be self-contained, if you will. This bill is not self-contained. It was clear doing the shoe leather and attending, out of legislative session education things with the judiciary. In the Magic Valley, it was really clear their number of candidates that they have for judge positions has gotten really thin. They're concerned about that. And clearly from the staff that support everything that they do, they think what they're trying to do, my words, what they're trying to accomplish is kind of like smoke signals. To handle the increased caseload in Idaho with all the growth, they need to come up to speed technologically. So for me, if it's not in there, it's simply not in there. The agency has some very clearly articulated needs, and if it's not in the maintenance budget, I can't really support a maintenance budget with all due respect to any sort of discussions we're having about the process. So for me, I'm a no, simply because, it's not in there.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Lady from 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To testify in favor of the bill.
Good lady has the floor to debate the bill.
I'd like to speak so my citizens in my district understand what we're talking about here, because there's a lot of terms being thrown out, and I'm hearing maintenance and omnibus bills and base budgets, and I'm going to let you know what I think of what's going on. So in the past and up to this point, we've had big bloated budgets. They've been all or nothing. Every single want of an agency, every single need of an agency was all put into one budget. This is the first time since I've been here in 10 years that we're actually going to at least take that one big budget and turn it into two. And we can put it into two categories. What does the agency need and what does the agency want? And that's going to come in two packets this time. So obviously, I would guess that everyone in this body is going to vote yes on everything the agency needs, because we want agencies, we want government to be able to function. But then when it comes to the wants, what's different about this budget and all these terms are just trying to, in my opinion, just confuse people. But what this second budget comes through is, here's some wants. What it allows is it allows us as a body to look at these line items. So we can say, okay, this agency wants 100 new vehicles. Do we think that's reasonable or not? And we can look down and say, well, maybe we think that they could do it with 90 vehicles. And so we can make those kinds of decisions with this new process. So by voting yes on this, you're going to be able to look at some of those other things and assess them as a body, and we can say, is this really something government needs? Or is it something we think government needs? Or do our people need this? The way we've been doing it, every single budget passes every year. And we never get to look, as was mentioned, under the hood. We never get to see all the line items. It's all or nothing. And as we know, if you don't like one little line item, you don't like the fact that we're going to provide an agency with 100 vehicles because you know they're sitting on 100 that they're not using, there's no way to take that out without voting no on the entire budget. And we want to be able to make good decisions with how the money is spent. And that's what this new process allows. Another thing I want to mention that was mentioned to me, it just kind of explains it. every agency wants new stuff. We all like to get our new cell phones and update our clothing and all that, but maybe that's not necessary every year for every agency. And so what this new process does and what this bill allows is you to be able to, us as legislators, to look at, do they really need a new system this year? If they only have 50,000 miles on their car, do we really need to upgrade to a brand new car with 20 miles on it? Maybe not. This process will allow us to make these kinds of decisions as a body. Before this, we could not do this. We could not make these kinds of decisions. A lot of the process, because it was so hard to navigate, this is going to simplify it so we can make true decisions. And so I just don't want people to be confused. This will be more transparency for Idaho citizens. It will be more opportunities to slow down the growth of government. I don't think we'll ever stop the growth of government, but we will be able to slow it down a little bit with this new process. So I urge you to vote yes on this, and let's get back to transparency in government.
Further debate on the motion. Good gentleman from 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a comment.
Gentleman has the floor for a comment to debate the bill or a comment?
Debate.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I debate in opposition to the bill. I'm a red light. I think we have a bundling problem. I think there's a lot of issues in the room. People are unhappy with how things are bundled. My point here is let's lift up the hood. Let's actually check out the engine, check out the transmission, get underneath and look at the rear end, check the tires, check the whole thing. I don't think making a few votes is really what we need to do. I actually think we should do more votes. And I'm not comfortable passing a budget that doesn't really encompass the whole operating system. I have some questions about a future bill. My question was, why wouldn't we bring that future bill forward and then bring the basic bill along as a trailer? That makes more sense to me. The other point I'd like to add or make is I haven't heard anybody set a revenue number for our state yet, and we're asked to set budgets now without a revenue target or estimate, and I'm not comfortable doing that. So I'm a red light. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to
debate the bill.
To debate against the bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a little bit on the process and some of the things that were said. When you get the next bill, the process is a lot different than you just heard. That next bill is going to have all those line items in it. You're going to vote that thing up or down. It's not going to have a whole bunch of different lines.
Gentleman 13.
Mr. Speaker, with the point of order, I think we need to debate the bill, not the process here on the floor today.
Mr. Speaker.
Good, gentleman 31.
I'm debating the bill because of things that were brought up that were maybe not correct.
Try to keep it so we don't keep expanding, though, my friend. Thank you.
Thank
Gentlemen,
you,
can continue.
The process is not that you'll be able to line item veto those next.
Okay, we've been watching the debate on the House floor here on this budget reform. This is all about transparency, and this here is Representative Rod Furness, who's trying to derail the process, of course. And I'm not putting too much stock into what this guy says, since he's out there tweeting and lying about all certain things. This is also the guy that thinks that there should be that it's the government's business to be handing out and paying for feminine hygiene products for both men and women. So I don't give too much stock into this guy here, but he's standing up there debating on something that he already voted for. We had Fred Birnbaum on yesterday talking about the fact that this guy completely misinformed the public by stating something that was categorically untrue. You can go back and watch that clip with Fred Birnbaum, the vice president of the Idaho Freedom Foundation, yesterday, discuss this. But I do want to just point out here as this debate continues, and we'll dip back in here and listen to the debate continue. But what Heather Scott, what Representative Heather Scott from District 2 said earlier, we watched her entire debate, was spot on, and the ability for these folks to stand up and simply just talk past everybody and saying that I mean, we just had Mark Sauter stand up and say, this bill doesn't have everything in it. I want a bill that has everything in it. Well, that's the whole problem with the process. There's no more having everything in it. We're going to fund what the government was working on last year, and everything that's new, you're going to have to fight for. You're going to have to negotiate for. You're going to have to debate on. And so Mark Sauter, you can listen to him sit there sincerely say that he wants all of these things in one bill. Well, that's the status quo. That's the problem. You want to talk about omnibus? They're up there talking about an omnibus bill. How can you say that there's an omnibus bill for a department when there's two bills coming along? They don't do that in Washington, D.C. They throw the entire budget into one bill. So these people are standing up and straight up lying. I'm calling it out right now. They are straight up lying. And we're not going to take it anymore. We are not going to take it anymore. So go back and listen to Representative Heather Scott there, because she was absolutely right. Representative Josh Tanner was absolutely right. And Representative Wendy Horman so far has been absolutely right. But, folks after folks are going to be standing up here trying to deflect from what the process is going on. And we'll continue to listen to this. It pains me. It pains me to listen to this. But you got to listen to it. You got to see how this sausage is made, and you got to figure out who's tainting the sausage that they're shoving down our throat. So let's dip in. Let's listen to Representative Rod Furness here a little bit longer, and then we'll take a break after.
We're asking those hard questions. These maintenance budgets may not be up to par on what we need as a maintenance. I worry about a lot of things in JFAC. I worry about how much cash we have, how much we'll have at the bottom line, what will happen if some of these line items don't go through, and they're not all going to go through. We've already gone through in committee, and we've X'd out a bunch of line items. We've done the hard work so that you don't have to. And but on these maintenance budgets, I would hope that you would look at them strongly. I would hope you give it the red light. We need to look at these budgets on an individual basis so you can put the whole story together to see if you need line items, to see if they have what they need, to see if they need all those printers or typewriters that they might need. With that, Mr. Speaker, I offer you the red light.
Thank you, gentlemen. For debate on the motion, gentleman from 28.
Good speaker. With the kind lady from 32, not really a question, but a clarification so if I heard right.
Good lady from 32, answer a question.
The lady yields to a question.
Lady yields.
Thank you. Did I understand right that these budgets before us today do not entail everything that we need to meet our constitutionality requirements to these agencies?
Lady 32.
Mr. Speaker, good gentleman from Preston.
28.
I can't see your number.
28.
Thank you. 28. Thank you. I am not going to weigh in, I am not a lawyer, on whether this budget meets constitutional muster. What I will weigh in on is this. This is everything the courts got last year, plus money for the increased cost of health insurance, their fees, and a 1% placeholder for CEC awaiting further action on an additional approximately $450 million. And because I happen to know who sets the agendas for the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, I can assure you that hearings are scheduled and will happen for the other needs that the courts have identified that they have that are new spending or a new funding source that will be considered and coming to you in a future bill. I, Mr. Speaker, do not ask need to ask unanimous consent for that because it's not a bill yet, but I certainly expect it will be.
Thank you, gentleman. 28.
Mr. Speaker, for one more question, will the lady
The
yield?
good lady from 32 yield for one more question.
The lady yields.
Good lady yields.
Okay, I've been getting a lot of concerns and feedback from my district that the judges in Idaho are underpaid compared to, and so I guess my question is, I'm wondering if JFAC looks at that when they look at the budgets. Do they look at other states or the private sectors to see how that compares?
Good lady 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A good gentleman from 28. Judicial salaries are set in the Germain Policy Committee, Judiciary and Rules. That is always a bill that is considered down in that policy committee. So that is not, we will take that up as a trailer bill once they approve whatever that number is. I share your concern that our justices and judges in Idaho are not, are underpaid.
Gentleman 28.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
Thank you. Good ladies and gentlemen, I will be an enthusiastic green light on this bill. I'm excited for this bill for what it represents. I'm excited for the changes that it represents in terms of how we do budgeting in this body. I note that the evidence that this is a significant change is that that it's been a difficult road to get here, and that adversity signifies to me that we're on to something here. This is a tool for transparency, and this is a tool for those of us who put importance in scrutinizing government growth, reining in the government. That's something that I take seriously. I want to give a shout out to the good lady from 32 and her efforts in this process, and I'll be excited to cast a green light vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 7.
To debate in favor of the bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate in favor of the bill.
First, a comment, Mr. Speaker, and no disrespect to you at all, but it's my understanding that you cannot sine die until we vote as a body in majority to sine die. And speaking for myself, I have no intention of casting that vote unless I am satisfied with each agency being properly funded. So with that being said, I like this budget.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker, can we keep the debate to the bill and not to procedure inside this body?
Thank you, good gentleman. Continue, gentleman 7 with caution.
I like this budget. I think it's fair to the agency as well as to the taxpayer, and I really like the new system.
Thank you, good gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Hearing that, good lady from 32.
First, would the good lady from 32 yield to a question?
Good lady from 32 yield for a question.
The lady yields.
Can you tell, the question I have, Mr. Speaker, is when is the last time we have started setting budgets without having set the revenue number first?
Good lady 32.
Mr. Speaker, other good lady from 32. Typically, we set the revenue number later in the session. The reason we have not set that yet is because there is not consensus around a number. We actually are planning to meet later today to meet with the co-chairs of the Economic Outlook and Revenue Assessment Committee and talk to them to see if we have approached consensus on what that recommendation should be. And as soon as we get to where we have some idea that we can move a number, we're hoping to actually add that to tomorrow's agenda.
Lady 32.
Follow-up question or clarification on that. Have we ever?
Just the lady from 32 yield to a follow-up question.
The lady yields.
The lady yields. Continue, good lady.
So my question is, have we ever started setting budgets and passing budgets without first determining a revenue number?
Good lady 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good lady from 32. I don't know.
To debate the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, good lady. Good lady from 32 can debate the bill.
Okay, since I have a lot of farmers out here in the audience, I'm going to speak to that just for a second. You know, on my farm, if I were farming for the year and I got to my last pass in my field and my tractor puked on the last pass,
there would not be a question as to whether or not I had to replace that tractor to continue to farm the next year. And when we look at these budgets and we say, gee, these people have to have necessary functions, equipment to function in the next year because their systems are going to crash or fail, that is not fat, that is not fluff, that is not pork. That is part of what we got told yesterday is maintenance of current operations. On the very worksheets that we got handed out yesterday, if you come down to the green line, it would say 2025 program maintenance, and yet those items were missing from that budget. I have a concern that we are now going to be legislating by appropriation. So if we pass bills in current session and then we go to the next session, they will say, oh, those are a new line item. And then if you had the bill that barely passed, you would be refighting again to get that particular program funded.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, welcome back. We are paying attention to the House floor debate on the budget reform bill. It looks like Representative James Petsky is standing up to speak against the process he already voted for. And that seems to be what's happening here among these JFAC members and Main Street Caucus people and all the folks that like to call themselves fiscally conservative or fiscally responsible conservative folks. They're absolutely not. They're sitting up here decrying the process that they already voted, some of them already voted for as we move along here. So right before we went to the break, Representative Stephanie Mickelson was speaking against the debate and yabbering on about something. And again, some of these people I've just lost much respect for as they've opened their mouths over the past few months, and even during this session, just saying really offensive, appalling things. And we went over Representative Mickelson's comments against homeschoolers a few weeks ago. You can go back on Rumble into the archive and find that. Maybe we'll play it again. But it looks like that debate continues to go on here. It's noon down in Boise, and normally they would have broken for lunch by now, but Speaker Moyle is putting them all to the test. No lunch for you. I hope they have snacks in their drawers and they could dive into. Let's keep this shot up here. I don't know if I'd like to see what they're about to do. I don't know if let's listen in. Let's see what they're doing.
From 32 yields question.
The lady yields.
Lady yields.
I understand there was requests for technology for the court system in this. Did you happen to discuss with the court administrator whether these items were necessary to maintain court security?
Lady 32.
Mr. Speaker, a good gentleman from
25.
25, thank you. Yes, I have discussed that with the director. They have not had their budget hearing yet in the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, but I have had several meetings with the executive director of the courts to make sure I fully understand their technology request.
Thank you.
Good gentleman from 30 to 25.
To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I'm going to be a red light on this one. I believe that a maintenance budget should be funded enough, and we had already heard in debate from the sponsor that this is not fully funding the court systems.
What a shocker this guy is. Okay, it's as if to stand up there and be so disingenuous as to say, well, the department's not fully funded here. That's not funded.
Court system
there are other bills that are coming to fund the requests and the needs of these departments if they need them. Sometimes they don't even need them. We have a clip from we can't show it today, but we heard yesterday about them debating a $6,000 printer that they had questions of inside JFAC. So this is the kind of overspending and pork that guys like Garner love, or Lanting. This is Lanting speaking. I mean, these guys love the pork. They love it. They love to gobble up the pork and put it into the budget and use all your money to spend $6,000 on a printer for an agency. And this isn't a printing agency. It's ridiculous. Anyway, okay, so that was Lanting. We're going to keep tabs on this. This morning, there was a lot of bills happening in the House State Affairs, everybody's favorite committee. And we want to see if we can get to those. We thought maybe they'd be adjourning by now by noon, but they're going to continue to debate. But there was a bunch of bills that came through the House State Affairs Committee. We also wanted to talk to you about the bill that passed the Senate yesterday. That was very telling on people's position on the First Amendment and what they think about voting and what do they think about people's rights to freely assemble. So we have a bunch of clips on deck to show there. We may not be able to get to all of them today. I do want to continue checking in on this fascinating debate on the floor. Today's Wednesday. This debate is going to go on for a while, so we're probably going to see these arguments depending upon how this vote goes down. So let's dip in on the floor. Let's see how this vote goes, because if we can be up here while the vote happens. This is Representative Jason Monks here. It'll be very interesting to hear his comments. So let's listen in.
I kind of feel like we're complaining about one thing, but yet we're going to go ahead and do that in the next bill. When it comes out, we talk about this, but we can't talk about them separate. If they need a new car, explain to me how they need a new car. I'm big enough. I'm a grown adult. I can accept that, and I can vote for that. If they need a new tractor because their tractor broke down, that's fine. Explain it to me, and I'll be happy to vote for that. But I kind of feel like we're not intelligent enough. That's what I hear. My message is that you're not intelligent enough to be able to vote for it if I break it up in a different format. I may not be the smartest person in here, but if you explain to me why we need something, I'll be happy to vote for it. There's nothing wrong with this budget. This is a good start. Nobody ever said it was the only thing that anybody was ever going to get. We'll have a chance to continue to look at those items, continue to look at those things, and if we feel that it's necessary, then we'll vote for them. But this is just a start. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. For debate on the motion. Gentleman from 25.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to explain why I'm going to vote in favor of this bill.
Gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
I know this is a major change, and it's hard to talk about this bill and the issues without mentioning the process, but I would probably feel much better if I knew that the next bill we were voting on had all of the line items to be able to compare. And then I would have a better feel for what is actually going on if I could see it. But this bill is relatively simple. And because of that, I will vote for this. But I do have my concerns that have been expressed about, does it cover everything that maintenance as defined by maintenance? And that is not a well-defined term in my opinion. So I'll be watching future budgets where I think that the maintenance portion has a significant impact, and trust that we're going to see a bill in hopefully near future that shows us the line items in support of the judicial system. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on the motion. Hearing none. Would the good lady from 32 care to close?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respect that everyone in this room might have a different definition of maintenance. I get that. What is before you today is everything the court system had last year, plus increased cost for insurance, agency fees, and partial CEC, with approximately 450,000 more to come in a future bill. This was well known at the time of the vote in the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee. We had a full day of only having questions about what that meant. And then we voted the following Tuesday. It wasn't until after those passed that I started hearing a lot of different definitions of maintenance, which I would have been happy to consider before, but at the point when we had a bill, we have to do something with the bill, which we are doing today. So nothing has been slipped in to this budget that wasn't there last year, again, except insurance, fees, and increased employee compensation. New computers, new cars, new funding sources, new programs, all will be considered in a future bill. When it comes to replacement items, the request from the agencies this year was $181 million. Perhaps some of you have had a teenager that thinks they need a new phone every time the new model comes out. There might be an agency or two that falls into that category, but even if they do, that is the job of JFAC, to assess and evaluate what to include and what not. Either way, it's new money and new spending. And that's what we're trying to delineate here, is base from growth. You are welcome to look at the legislative budget book on pages 3-66 and 3-67. If you would like to study those line items for yourself, you're always welcome to attend the hearings in JFAC. I agree with some concern I heard about policy committees weighing in. Our practice right now is to have chairmen come and express what the priorities that their committee has identified. But I agree that a flaw in our process is that the public is not allowed to testify on budget bills. Make no mistake, appropriation bills are legislation. They are law. So I hope that's something that we can figure out how to do in coming years as we improve our process by looking at the base and inviting the public to weigh in on budgets and not just state agencies. I again invite you to look at the link of Transparent Idaho on any budget bill that will be before you. The issue of revenue, it occurred to me, I spoke to the good gentleman from 24, and he does recall time. He has 8 years of experience prior to being reelected as a freshman again this year on JFAC, and he does recall actioned a budget setting prior to setting the revenue number. What I can assure you is that we have taken budget action. It took me a minute to remember, but anytime we set a supplemental early in session, we're taking budget action without having identified the revenue number. But we are committed to setting that soon. I share that concern and think we need to do that as soon as possible. Appropriation bills are law, and we work very hard to stay away from the policy space. The good co-chair from the Senate and I have a deep concern about not setting policy in budget bills. If it's an existing program that's asking for an increase, that's a different story. We can handle that in JFAC. But what we do not do is grant money for programs that do not yet exist. That has to happen in the germane policy committees. Mr. Speaker, I think that hits the points I wanted to respond to from the debate, and I ask for your green light on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, good lady. Debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 457 Passed the House. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes.
This should be close. We are looking good, folks. Wow. We are looking good. Screenshot this. One more. We got an absent.
Wish to change their vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll and report the pairs.
Matthias votes nay. Crane 13 votes aye. Ehart votes aye. Gannon votes nay.
38 ayes, 31 nays, 1 absent and excused. The majority having voted in favor of House Bill 457. House Bill 457 is passed the House. Is there correction to title?
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. The bill be transmitted to the Senate.
Mr. Speaker.
Good gentleman from 20.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask you to put the House at ease and we immediately have a caucus.
Gentleman, second, House will be at ease.
Well, the lines have been drawn. The House is going at ease. They didn't adjourn, so they might come back and adjourn later, but we'll keep tabs on that. Incredible. We might have do we have a shot of that vote board? Let's look at that board. We got to bring that thing up. Where are my glasses? Okay, this shocked some people to immediately and I don't know who that was, but it didn't sound like somebody that was too happy with how the vote went. But what an incredible day here. According to my stats, we saw some votes come by. What's very interesting are the JFAC members who voted to pass this bill in committee, who voted against that. That would be Representative Raybould, Representative Petsky, Representative Furness. Yeah, here it is here. Representative Raybould, Representative Petsky, Representative Furness. I'm trying to think of who else is in JFAC here. Representative Sauter, I believe. These are folks that are on the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee that just voted against the bill that they voted for while they were in JFAC. And as you can see, they are voting with all of the Democrats, voting with the majority leader, Megan Blanksma, who we exposed as being somebody who was against this process from the beginning, was putting out smoke screens everywhere, trying to deceive people on what this process was. We heard tremendous debate in favor of this process. We had folks up there who were debating, saying that they were not going to, we're leaving things unfunded, when they know very well that the whole point of this process is to fund government at its current level from last year, and then bring in future bills that will have all of the requests and the wants that the agency and the governor and anybody else wants to add on to the department for this year. So this is an incredible turn here. I mean, a 38-31 is not as close as other votes that have drawn battle lines have been. We have seen 36-34 before, which is outside of a tie. That's the closest we have seen. Last year, the launch bill, which takes $8,000 to give to newly graduated high school students to go off and train somewhere at your expense instead of an employer. We can debate that another time. But instead of the employer paying for training, that passed on a 36-34 vote, which is about which is as close as it gets, because one vote switches and it's a tie, which means a vote would fail anyway. But seeing this 38-31 is pretty good. And I am looking at some of these folks on here. You've got, in terms of, you've got all your Democrats. You've got Birch, Burns, Chu, who are the other ones? Galaviz, Gannon, Green. I mean, I can call some others out like Lanting and Garner, but we won't do that. Matthias and so forth. So these are the Democrats that make up a large portion of this nay vote, and they're going along with your majority leader, the majority leader of the Republicans in the House. Republican Megan Blanksma just voted against budget reform. She just voted against budget reform and transparency. This is big news here. This is leadership. Your other leadership, your assistant majority leader, Sage Dixon, out of District 1 in North Idaho, Bonner and Boundary County, he voted for this process. His right below him is Chanel Dixon out in Twin Falls, no relation, but she voted against this. Marco Erickson out in Idaho Falls voted against it. Of course, Rod Furness voting against it. Britt Raybould, Stephanie Mickelson, Kenny Roten, Julie Yamamoto. No shocker there. She's running to the Democrats for cover as she votes with Democrats. She might as well run to them for cover. This is a historic moment. Now, make no bones about it. We have plenty of bills to go through. I mean, this fight isn't over, and they are now headed into a caucus. I don't know who stood up and said that. We'll try and find that out here in a moment. But this is a great historic moment. The Goonies have broke through the wall. The treasure is there, and it'll all be counted. It'll all be accounted. The tax money is there, and it'll all be counted, and we'll know exactly where everything's going. And they'll be able to divvy it up and send it back to you if they're not going to use it. I don't know, but I got my metaphors going through my head here. All right, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, the dust will be settling. We'll get our bearings. We'll check in on the House, see where they're at, and try and get word. So we will be back right after this.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
All right, folks, we are back. We got a shot of the House floor. We'll get you up to speed here. They are at ease. Once again, they are at ease after an historic vote for budget reform and transparency. You can see there the gallery is at ease. They have the Republicans went into caucus. They immediately called for a caucus after that vote. It appears that Representative Joe Palmer stood up and asked for the at ease. He was a yes vote on this process, but he asked for the at ease to go caucus. And then Representative Representative Vanderwood stood up and seconded it. So they went at ease. So this is just checking some notes here. Yeah, this is big. This is really big. This has a lot of ramifications, future ramifications for other decisions that were trying to be decided upon. Look, folks, we were playing that Goonies clip for a reason. There have been a group of folks that have been trying to move our state legislature to wrestle control back to the legislature of the budgeting process, to wrestle back into its proper function. The function of the state legislature and the House specifically is to spend the money, is to figure out the budget for the state. And the governor can request certain things, and the agencies can request certain things, and they can have all of their accountants and all their analysts come up with ideas. But if there is no if the legislature is not the one to take all that in and then debate and spend the money, then you're not being properly represented. And so, so this is great news. I love seeing this shot right here. I love this, that this vote happened and they all skittered away back to their caucus room upstairs. So this is a really good day. So yeah, let's leave this shot up here. You can bring me back, but let's leave us both up here. I think this is fantastic. And let me tell you this. When you see that vote, if your representative voted in favor of this, you need to call them. You need to say thank you. Send a text right now. I mean, I'm going to do it wherever my phone is. I am going to send texts to these people. I am going to call them up and I'm going to say thank you for doing this. This is a huge, huge moment. And all of the and what's sad though is that this wasn't necessarily an argument on whether or not they should spend money on something. They were arguing about the process. They were arguing about opening up the hood and looking inside and seeing everything. So this wasn't a social question of whether or not you believe in this certain value or that certain value. This was all about public transparency. And so that's why this was so important. Because you and I, we can all disagree on certain aspects. You know, we can see free speech laws come through. We can see, abortion law or the books in the libraries and all this stuff, and have these. Well, I don't know. So, some of these things are pretty cut and dry. I guess I'm just thinking of the ones that have been distracting us for a long time that are popping up on the side, up on my head. But there's, there was a bill earlier about telemedicine. I mean, there's certain opinions and certain ideas about how things should be functioning and worked in our society that we have debates over Thanksgiving dinner with our families and friends. But when it comes to something like this, that is clear cut, that when they stand up, the people in red who stood up and said that they were they talked out of both sides of their mouth, that they wanted everything in a budget so they could see what this department is funding. What they're funding in this department, they don't know, and they want to see it all. So why should they vote for just a portion of it? And then call it an omnibus bill. That, well, this is what we're doing, is just creating omnibus bills. I mean, they're talking out of both sides of their mouths. It's and that's what snakes do, right? That's what's metaphorically speaking. That's what snakes do. They talk out of both sides of their mouths. They have forked tongues, and now the snake just got stepped on, and it's riling around. So this is a good day. This is a good moment. And it's just the first. There's 9 more of these types of bills, and then there's all the other line item ones that you're going to see throughout the session. Somebody asked a question. We were carrying it live at the moment. That I think it was Representative Charlie Shepard out of District 7, which is the largest district in one of. I think it is the largest. It certainly covers. It's one of the 3 largest districts. I think it's the second largest district in Idaho. And he stood up and said that he liked the bill, and he asked the question that they can't sine die. They can't end the session and go home until everything's funded. So this notion that we're not funding these bills or these departments was preposterous, because they have to fund everything. And so they're going to get through this, and they're going to fund it. Big day, folks. Big day. This specific budget was for the Judiciary Department, and which is one of the equal branches of government in Idaho. And if you want to look it up yourself, you can. It's House Bill 457, and there is your vote total: 38-21 in favor of not just this particular bill, my friends, but of this process. And hats off, Joe Alfieri, Kevin Andrus, Vito Barbieri, Judy Boyle. Is it Doug Cannon? I'm trying to remember all these names. Lance Clow, both the Crane brothers, Brent and Jaron Crane, Sage Dixon, Melissa Durant. That's a bit of a shocker to me. She voted we could probably compare this to, like I said, to some of the other bills where a lot of these aye votes disappointed us throughout the process. But like I said, folks, when we were looking at that Goonies clip, and we don't have to play it because we've played it enough, but we saw that the Goonies were traveling underground, trying to find the end of trying to find the solution to their problems. And the problem was up with the elites who were going to take over the town. And there was a couple of people that were traveling with them, Andy, the cheerleader, who said, I'm not a Goonie. I don't think I can do this. I need to get out of here. I need to go to somewhere safe. And some of those folks, you're seeing them right here. They voted yes. They voted continue down the tunnels and to fight for fiscal sanity and to fight for transparency and budget reform. And they are on board. This is a great sign. All right, folks, it is 11:30. The House is, it's 11:30 Pacific, 12:30 Mountain. The House is at ease. And we will come back tomorrow with a bunch of clips, a bunch of the fallout, and we'll see how this plays out. But I thank you for watching. Head over to idahosignal.com if you want to support the program, and that'll be it. So thanks again, and we will see you tomorrow. Great day.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.